to TradeTheABI.com. This is John. This report is for the 12th, and, well, continuing our move here, right back up to the peaks from before. We saw the shakeout reset, and of course, whenever it doesn't go all the way back to zero and you start a new up cycle, that's usually a pretty good thing. We do know that we're overbought and that we're going to fade back on some of this stuff. Just not at this particular point. You can see we had the continued short buyer reset, or near-term buyers, and that allowed for this most recent up spike all the way back up, and we never had really much concern because we've been riding this cyan underneath the red, and we all know that that's a bullish configuration as long as it remains that way, even in overbought conditions. All we expected was just retraces back to the ABM yellow, and that's pretty much all we've seen. We haven't even seen the test of the green since like way back over here in the middle part of November. So pretty good stuff. And not surprising. I mean, there's really no catalyst for anything negative at this particular point. Everything's just pretty much waiting for the tax bill to get its final okay and see what the final format really looks like. The NQ, not quite as strong, because you can see the DOC spread could take place at any moment here on the NQ. And the fact that it's at a peak, you'll get a lot of people talking double top situation. That it has moved to a positive shakeout, so it's critical that that maintain itself and even attempt to achieve the similar altitude. So any breakdown there is definitely going to be a much bigger short potential on the NQ as far as that goes. And the euro maintaining its elevated stasis here is kind of an interesting trade, given the fact that we're seeing such incredible growth from America. You're not seeing that in Europe, and for this trade to be this elevated is a little peculiar, and it has been for a while, but we know that there have been manipulations as far as that goes. Likewise, treasuries being this elevated really becomes a question of, will there be another rate hike before the year's out? And while most people think there should be, doesn't mean necessarily that it will happen. If it doesn't happen, I think the market has a chance to rally even more significantly. Oil, it's been pretty decent, despite the fact that we ended up with a pretty strong DOC spread. We broke down below the ABM green, but fought right back to it because of a complete reset of short-term buyers again, and it's steel resetting below. It's very powerful when we see that. So it definitely has a definite impact on knowing which areas are going to hold support ranges versus those that won't. And you can see that the potential here is for green to cross above the cyan, which will also be bullish, and then we would look for cyan underneath red. It's a little tough because you're not seeing long-term buyers really carry this through. This seems to be a little bit more of a short-term speculation. There's gold continuing its decay as cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, continues to rise, and that's quite a significant plunge going forward. Interesting, given the solid global demand for gold. So, what are you going to do with that? Anyway, you can see the day is pretty bland the last couple of days, in fact, because it's just been a straight upline curve from our buys that took place down here at the 30 range, and straight up. I mean, it's not even like we've had a 50% retest, nothing. Doesn't get any easier than that, and it really doesn't involve anything. It's not like you can really do much with this other than just sit back and let it go, which is why I talked about that. Well, geez, back here when it first started, having that lower stop and then just continuing to let it ride with it, and it's proven to be exactly accurate, which is why I'm glad I talked about that a few days back, so that you can see how it plays out in practice. Doesn't always work out this way, but given what we were expecting from a holiday trade, so far perfect. Nothing else to add to that. When you got it going good, you got it going good. As always, though, trade well, and if anything relevant happens, I will put it up on the Skype chat.